Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam to everybody.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanavad Pranams. Thank you. Thank you for joining us and giving your association. Thank you, Prabhu.
So, kindly forgive me, I'm a little late today.
No, it's perfectly fine, Prabhu. We're all listening to Prabhupada's Dhvani. Nice. Hare Krishna, everybody. Good morning on a Saturday morning. Welcome to Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. We'll be just continuing with 4th canto, 23rd chapter, which talks about Prithu Maharaj going back to Godhead. And we'll be discovering the verse of 31 today, and we have the privilege of having His Grace, Premsindhu Gaurnga Prabhu. Prabhu, over to you. Dandavats.
Hare Krishna. You can allow, make me the co-host.
Sure, Prabhu. I'll just do that.
Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupapada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Bhaktakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktaranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So today we are continuing with Prithu Maharaj's section from the 4th canto. And the verse is 423 to 31. Ya idam sumahat punyam shraddhaya vahita pathet shravayet shrunuyad vyapi saprito padavim yat. So here the verse is saying that any person who describes the great characteristics of King Prithu with faith and determination, whether he reads or hears of them himself or helps others to hear of them, is certain to attain the very planet which Maharaj Prithu attained. In other words, such a person also returns home to the Vaikuntha planets, back to Godhead. So, this is a section of Prithu Maharaj going back home, back to Godhead. And in this particular verse, the glories of hearing and chanting, they are described. In the purport, Prabhupada focuses on Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. And also he will speak about spiritual master. How spiritual master is non-different than the Supreme Lord in one sense. So let us read the purport. It's a small purport, then we can continue the discussion. In the execution of devotional service, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu is especially stressed. This means that bhakti or devotional service begins by hearing and chanting about Vishnu. When we speak of Vishnu, we also refer to that which relates to Vishnu. So, speaking about Vishnu also includes speaking about his dham, his devotees, and his paraphernalia. In Shiva Puran, Lord Shiva recommends Vishnu worship to be the topmost worship, and that better than Vishnu worship is the worship of a Vaishnava or anything that is related to Vishnu. The fact is explained herein that hearing and chanting about a Vaishnava is as good as hearing and chanting about Vishnu. So the verse is speaking about discussing the pastimes of Prithu Maharaj, which will result in uh, giving us the same destination as Prithu Maharaj, that is Vaikunta. So for Maitreya has explained that anyone who hears about Prithu Maharaj with attention also attains the planet which Maharaj Prithu attained. There is no duality between Vishnu and Vaishnava, and this is called as Advaya Jnana. So Vaishnava is as important as Vishnu, and therefore Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur has wrote in Guru Ashtak, Sakshat Dharitvena Samasta Shastre Uktastatha भाव्यत एव सद्भिः किंतु प्रभोर्यः प्रिय एव तस्य वंदे गुरु श्री चरणारविंदम. So in this way we see that here in this purport Srila Prabhupada is focusing on hearing and chanting about Vaishnavas. So the sadhana which we do, it begins with hearing and chanting. Sadhana begins with hearing and chanting, and it is said that Krishna Prem is natural to every living entity, and by hearing and chanting about Krishna, then it is again reawakened. So it is not something which is to be brought from outside. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhya Kabunay Shravanadi Suddha Chitte Karayodaya. So Chaitanya Charitamrit, in the first chapter, there is description of the Guru Parampara or the Gurus. So there it is said that we should meditate on the Guru, the Vaishnavas, and the Lord. So Guru, Vaishnavas, and Lord. And by remembering them, all obstacles are destroyed, and one quickly attains the fulfillment of all desires. So I think in the verse 20, 21 in the first chapter, Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says, Guru Vaishnav Bhagwan, Tinera Saman. So Guru Vaishnav Bhagwan, Tinera Saman. And all three are equal. So by remembering them, all obstacles are quickly destroyed, and one quickly attains fulfillment of all desires. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he begins Chaitanya Charitamrit with these words that Guru, Krishna, Vaishnav, Tinera Saman. All three are similar, Guru, Vaishnav, and Krishna. So this is the Mangalacharan of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, part of the Mangalacharan. And following in the footsteps of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, we also invoke this Guru Ashtak every day, which Prabhupada has quoted in this purport by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So by remembering Krishna, the abode of all good fortune, it is possible to gain Krishna's mercy very quickly. And by remembering the Guru, one can get the mercy of Krishna even more quickly. So, Yasya Prasadat Bhagavad Prasado, Yasya Prasadan Nagati Kutapi. So, the conclusion of the great souls, Acharyas like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, is that there is no way of gaining the Lord's pleasure other than through the Guru, or Lord's mercy other than through the Guru. So we pray that our beloved Guru should be pleased with us. And also the devotees, Vaishnavas, who are like Krishna's expansions, they should be pleased with us. So we pray that their combined mercy will result in our obtaining great fortune, which is Krishna's satisfaction. So in Mahabharata, King Yudhishthir and other Pandavas, they were challenged to answer some questions by Yamraj, who has disguised himself as a yaksha. So of the five brothers, only Yudhishthir was able to answer all the questions. So thus passing Yamraja's test, um, he passed Yamraja's test. So in answer to the question about the genuine spiritual path, so Yamraj, who, or basically Dharmaraj, in one of his questions, he asked Yudhishthir that what is a genuine spiritual path? So Yudhishthir said that the only path which is followed, uh, only path which is followed by the Mahajans was free from all obstacles, and that everyone should therefore cast aside all intellectual criticisms and simply follow that path. And anyone who disregards the path of the Mahajans for some other reason or one's own will find that they are not headed anymore towards the divine abode of Goloka, but rather in the opposite direction. So it is very necessary for us to ascertain that who the Mahajanas are and what kind of path they are recommending for us. And then we should learn how to follow that path. So that path is the art of hearing and chanting, which is also described in this purport. So by that path of hearing and chanting, one can achieve the supreme goal of one's life. While recounting the story of Ajamil in Srimad Bhagavatam 6th canto, Shukdev Goswami, he is naming the 12 Mahajans. Who are the 12 Mahajans? So these 12 Mahajans, they know the path of spiritual life perfectly. So who are all these 12 Mahajans? Uh, Manu, Narad, then Shiva, four Kumaras, and Kapila, Prahlad, Janak, and Bhishma, Bali, Shukadev, Yamaraj, Dharmaraj. So, like that, the 12 Mahajans are there. And these great personalities, they are the followers of the path of devotion. And all of them have demonstrated in their own way the excellence of this path. So Lord Brahma, for instance, he studied the Vedic literature 3 times, and he came to the conclusion that attachment to the supreme is the Vedic literature's ultimate goal. So that is stated in second canto. So just like Munis, they read a scripture 2 or 3 times over and over to understand it properly. Similarly, Brahma also decided to play the part of a seeker, even though he is all knowing. What is the need for Brahma to read something 2 or 3 times? So, by just reading once, he can remember everything forever. So, his whole body is made up of intelligence, and he has the potency of the Supreme Lord to create. So, he is like a Shaktiavesh avatar. He has the potency of creation given by the Supreme Lord. So why should he read 2, 3 times like ordinary people? So, but Brahma, has decided to play the part of a seeker, even though he is all knowing. So he thus took on the character of a seeker. And just as it is said that in the Shrutis, it is said that a Muni thinks very carefully after reading something. So Brahma carefully studied the Vedas three times in their entirety. And just to show how difficult it is to extract the essence from the scriptures and find their ultimate meaning. And so when Brahma he completed his study, he came to the conclusion that attachment to the supreme Lord Hari or Bhakti Yoga is the genuine fruit of every scholarly research. So that Brahma himself says that you can see in second canto, he's saying. So there are so many paths to liberation, and none is more reasonable, easily performed than the process which directly pleases the Supreme Lord. So, by the process by which one can attain direct devotional service, so there is no doubt that direct devotional service is superior to other processes such as karma yoga, by which one offers the results of one activities to the Lord. So, superiority of devotional service over all other paths of spiritual life is clearly mentioned in Bhagavad Gita also. In the last verse of the Bhagavad Gita, sixth chapter, last verse, so it is said that yogi namapi sarvesham madgate nantaratmana. So, for the out of all the types of yogis, someone who completely engages his mind in me, he is the most dear to me. And also there are so many verses, manmana bhava bhakto and sarvadharman parityajya, like that. So these all verses they conclude that the ultimate goal of Vedic literature is bhakti yoga. And so although on the path of bhakti yoga we say that hearing and chanting is the ultimate process, but there are also so many other paths of spiritual life. There is a path of dhyana and ashtanga yoga, like that. So many conflicting ideas they have developed about religion throughout the history. And according to the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam, however, the ultimate religious activity for all human beings is devotion to the Supreme Lord. So Krishna, he lies beyond uh, empirical speculation. So devotion is characterized by Navavidha Bhakti or nine limbs of devotional service, like hearing, chanting, like that. So we are also studying about hearing, chanting here. And this hearing and chanting should be free from any selfish motive. So in the sixth chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that devotional service is primarily executed in the form of Sankirtan. So, etavan eva lokesmin pumsam dharma parasmita bhakti yogo bhagavati tannama grhanadibhi. So, the supreme religious activity for people in this world is devotional service to the Lord, performed by acts like Sankirtan. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has also confirmed this statement from the Bhagavatam in his own words. Out of the nine limbs of devotional service, so hearing and chanting they are most important, and in that also chanting is very important. So, chanting is not only chanting the holy names, but it is also chanting about the glories of the Supreme Lord and his devotees. just like it is mentioned here in this verse. So Mahaprabhu also says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhajanera Madhye Shrestha Navavidha Bhakti, that in the process of bhajan, the Navavidha Bhakti is topmost. And then he says, Taramadde Sarvashrestha Nama Sankirtana. So in Navavidha Bhakti also, Nama Sankirtan is the best. So out of many ways for executing devotional service, there are these nine processes. And amongst these nine processes, the most important is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord and chanting the glories of Krishna's devotees is also non different than chanting his holy names. Of course, it has to be done without committing offenses. Then one can get the real result of this. So, in 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, also it is said that remembering, contemplating, meditating on the Lord, it depends on inner purification. So, uh, these activities are not easily perfected by ordinary people. So, on other hand, since Sankirtan is an activity which is executed by the external senses, it is within the grasp of anyone, even the disturbed human beings of this age of Kali Yuga. They can also get proper result of these activities. So, in so many other sampradayas, even in some Vaishnava sampradayas, so much importance is given on smaranam, that smaranam of the Lord or meditating, thinking about Him is the most important or most potent limb of devotional service. And the argument is given that chanting, you are saying that chanting is the highest, but chanting is done by external senses, which are not very powerful. Whereas smaranam is done by the mind. The mind is the most powerful sense. And also, it is said that the ultimate result of chanting or hearing is also smaranam. It should lead to smaranam. So, why so much focus should be given on chanting? So, the best process is smaranam. But Jiva Goswami, he tells the same thing which we just now discussed, that first comes an activity by the external senses, and then when one's mind and senses are properly controlled, then one can go to the platform of smaranam, because the mind is always disturbed. It has a tendency to always jump. It is not focused in the conditioned state. And so, directly doing smaranam is very difficult. So, this is also told by Sanatan Goswami in Brihad Bhagavatamrit. He also tells the same thing, that first comes chanting and then comes smaranam, because chanting is something which can be done by external senses. Even someone's mind and senses, they are not controlled, he can perform the activity of hearing and chanting. So for disturbed people of Kali Yuga, this is recommended. So in previous ages, the mind was not so much disturbed and they could focus for long periods of time. And for them, it was very easy to directly absorb themselves in meditation or thinking about the Supreme Lord. So they will just read Bhagavatam and then they will be able to recall all the past times and go deep into that. So the mind could easily process and absorb there. But in age of Kali, the activities which are done by external senses, they are much more helpful in the beginning. And of course, in later also, it is chanting which gives rise to smaranam. That is what Sanatana Goswami says in Brihad Bhagavatamrit, that it is the activity of chanting which gives rise to smaranam. They are not independent. So that's why chanting is the underlying factor in all the whole process of bhakti yoga. So that is why just by hearing and chanting about the great souls, one can achieve a destination like going back to Vaikuntha. So it is something very surprising, but it's a proper science. So the Jivatma, he is in Ajnana or Avidya. He has forgotten about his identity with Krishna, and that's why he's confused, because he keeps on taking so many identities, and none of the identities is fully satisfying him or pleasing him. So, by the activity of chanting and hearing, his original identity is slowly revived. What is his relationship with Krishna? In the beginning, one can only understand that he is servant of Krishna, and later on, when anarthas are vanquished to a great extent, then one can also realize his actual relationship or swarupa. And when one is situated in that swarupa, then one is no longer confused, because now he understands what is his actual identity, eternal identity, and what all activities he is supposed to do eternally. So then the external identities which he gathers in this material universe, every life a different identity. So these things do not confuse or trouble him anymore. So, so that's why Mahaprabhu, who appeared in the age of Kali, he gave the gift of love of God, and he, uh, when there was, or he also told the same thing to his confidential associates like Sarup Damodar Goswami and Ramaranda Rai. So, Chaitanya Charitamrit in other place, Mahaprabhu says that हर्षे प्रभु कहे न सुन स्वरूपे न राम राय नाम संकीर्तन कलौ परम उपाय. Chanting the holy names is the supreme means of salvation in the age of Kali. So, even though Mahaprabhu has stated that through devotional service, which is based on proper rules and regulations, love of God is found in Braj. But if one takes up Harinam Sankirtan, the directions which are given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one will quickly attain the qualification which is necessary for the inner awakening of this spontaneous service to divine couple. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Swarup Damodar Goswami that how one should chant the holy name to awaken the dormant love. So, that you all know, Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishuna Amanina Manadenu. So, that is why one should know that this process of hearing and chanting is very important and very potent. For the people in Kali Yuga, it is not possible to meditate on Krishna directly. So, this kind of consciousness with a taste for devotion to Krishna is obtained by the grace of great souls like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So, here also uh, in this purport, Prabhupada is speaking about Srimad Bhagavatam. or rather, we are studying Srimad Bhagavatam here, and we are hearing about the glories of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Mahaprabhu has said that Srimad Bhagavatam is the supreme Pramana. So, in Chaitanya Chandramrit, that famous verse is there. Aradhyo Bhagavan Brajesh Tanayas Tadham Vrindavan Ramya Kachidupasana Brajavadhu Vargenaya Kalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Param Prema Pumarthvamaha. So that is told by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So also serving the Lord's devotees or hearing about the Lord's devotees, that is very important here. So anyway, before going that, let us read this purport, remaining part of this purport. So Prabhupada is saying here that the spiritual master is honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and is followed by all authorities. This is the translation of this verse, Sakshat Daritvena Samasta Shastras. So Prabhupada is saying in the purport here, in this paragraph, the Supreme Vaishnava is the spiritual master and he is non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is said that sometimes Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to chant the names of gopis, and some of the Lord's students they tried to advise him to chant the name of Krishna instead. But upon hearing this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very angry with his students. Controversy on this subject reached a point that after this incident, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided to take sannyas because he was not taken very seriously in his Grihastha ashram. The point is that since Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chanted the names of gopis, worship of gopis, or the devotees of the Lord is as good as devotional service directly rendered to the Lord. So, by this, we can also understand another thing that service to the devotees is also as good as devotional service rendered directly to the Lord, or rather, it is more pleasing to Krishna. So, whether it is hearing and chanting about the devotees, or whether it is serving the great devotees, it is similar to hearing about the Lord or serving the Lord. And actually, it is not possible for us to serve the Lord directly because He is beyond the scope of our material senses. And so, it is only possible for us to serve the uh, pure devotees who will be who are present on this earth right now. Or it is possible for us to follow the instructions of the pure devotees who are present in the form of their instructions, like Srila Prabhupada and other acharyas. So it is also stated by the Lord Himself that devotional service to His devotees is better than service offered directly to Him. So service to devotees is better than service to Lord. Sometimes the Sahajiya class of devotees are interested only in Krishna's personal pastimes to the exclusion of activities of devotees. This type of devotee is not on very high level, one who sees the devotee and the Lord on same level has further progressed. So we see that in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, in the definition of devotional service, Anya Bilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadi Navrutam Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. So, in the description of the word Krishna, Krishna means not only Krishna but also his paraphernalia, which includes his devotees also. So, that is the proper understanding of the word Krishna, or worship of Krishna when it comes to pure devotional service. Krishna includes Krishna and everything related to him. So, everything in this world is related to Krishna only. But Rupa Goswami says that the things which are very directly connected to him, like devotees, his dham, and the items of his worship, like that, or the holy scriptures. So they are also coming under the category of Krishna. So one who can see that he has progressed to a high level of devotional service. So here it was said that service to the Lord's devotees is very important or much better than service to Krishna. So, service to pure devotees is the best, but even service to Madhyama Adhikaris and neophytes, uh, that also gives some realization. So some people have the idea that we'll only serve pure devotee and not the new devotees or those who are with us. But one has to serve everybody. Definitely, serving the pure devotee, that will give the supreme mercy. But by serving the devotees, the servant of the servant also, that is good for developing Vaishnava qualities like humility. And if we are qualified, if we have that kind of consciousness to get the direct service or association or instruction of a pure devotee, then Krishna will give us that. So that is the ultimate perfection which one can aspire for. And all over the scriptures, it is said that unless one receives the mercy of a pure devotee, then one cannot achieve pure devotional service. And also in Bhagavatam, we see all the examples are like that. That by either by directly achieving the causeless mercy, Hetuki Krupa, or by following the instructions, which is also, in one sense, receiving mercy of great devotees. Only then one can achieve perfection. So, in Prayag, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he met Rupa Goswami and he instructed him in the process of devotional service. And in the course of their conversations, he told Rupa Goswami that how rare a pure devotee is. Pure devotees are very rare. So Mahaprabhu tells Rupa Goswami how rare a pure devotee is. And he said that the unlimited living entities, they can be divided into two categories: the eternally liberated and the eternally conditioned. So the conditioned living entities, they are further divided into those who can move and those who cannot move. Like there are some trees, or like there are some mountains which are also alive, they cannot move. And then there are others who can move, and those whose consciousness is more covered, like trees, they are non-moving, while moving beings, they are like birds, aquatics, animals, human beings. So all the moving entities, they have more developed consciousness. And out of all the land creatures are considered more evolved than the water aquatics or the birds. So out of the land creatures, only very small proportion are human beings. And among those human beings, then there are these uh, uncivilized people like mlechas, pulindas. So they are outside the purview of civilized society. Civilized society means those who follow the Vedic principles. They are called as civilized. And those who don't follow Vedic principles, they are uncivilized. So today, even if someone is uh, not a mlecha or yavana, still they are uncivilized only because they don't follow the Vedic principles. So now, out of half of those who follow the Vedas, they simply give lip service to the scriptures. They are more interested in irreligious activities, just for making some show. Like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that people perform some yajna tapa just to increase their pride. That is yajna and tapa in mode of passion. So the half of the people who follow the Vedas, they are like that. And further, those who follow the Vedic scriptures, they are mostly engaged in fruitive activities. So half of them are irreligious. They just want to follow Veda for pride. And the remaining half, most of them are interested in Karma Kanda section. They want to achieve Kama through Dharma. So first they want Artha, then Kama from Dharma. So out of many such Karma Kandis, one might become a philosopher. And among many, many such philosophers, one may actually achieve liberation. And it is very difficult to find a pure devotee, even amongst many, many millions of liberated people. And up to and including the liberated person, everyone is bound by desire. So anyone who is not on the platform of liberation or not walking on the path of liberation, everyone except him, all the jivatmas in material universe, they are bound by desire. So desires can be either gross desire or subtle desire. So those who are engaged in fruitive activities, they are bound by a desire for material enjoyment, bhukti. So there are three types of enjoyment. One is a very gross enjoyment, like animalistic. One is in the heavenly planets, and one is spiritual enjoyment. So they are all after the enjoyment in heaven. So they want enjoyment in heaven. So those who are attached to the quest of knowledge, those who are jnanis, they are bound by a desire for liberation. So those who are bound by karma, they have a desire to enjoy in heaven. And those who are bound by jnana, they have a desire for liberation. And the Ashtanga yogis, they are bound by a desire for spiritual powers, mystic powers. So as long as there are desires for sensual enjoyment, salvation or spiritual perfection in the heart, one will be disturbed. And for this reason, the devotee alone truly knows what is peace. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining all this, that how rare a devotee, pure devotee is. And amongst those who become devotees also, someone is very rare who wants to become a pure devotee. Mostly, so many others, they are very relaxed in their devotional activities, and they are not much worried if they have to take any more lives, or so they are moving on very nicely, peacefully. And one very some people who actually want to achieve love of God, they are very rare. So मुक्तानामपि सिद्धानां नारायणपरायणः सुदुर्लभः प्रशान्तात्मा कोटिष्वपि महामुने. So out of all liberated and perfected beings, one who is Narayana Parayana is very rare, and he alone amongst countless millions has found actual peace. So, towards the end of the class, we'll also mention we will also mention what is tadiya, or what is connected to the Lord. So, why it is said that Krishna, or the worship of Krishna's devotees, or hearing about them, is as potent or more potent than serving or hearing about Krishna, because they are tadiya, or they are connected to Krishna. So Rupa Goswami, in his definition in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he mentions this, that in the word Krishna, in the verse Anya Vilashita Shunyam, Krishna means everything which is connected to Krishna. So there are so many, everything in this world, every atom is connected to Krishna, but what is directly connected to Krishna? So I am just reading one verse here from Chaitanya Bhagavat, which tells about what is Tadiya. So this is Chaitanya Bhagavat 2.21.81-82. Those those special beings who have come into intimate contact with the Lord, they are known as Tadiya. And his own, Tadiya means the Lord's own, his own. So Vrindavan Das Thakur, he writes in this verse in Chaitanya Bhagavat, भागवत तुलसी गंगाय भक्त जने चतुर्धा विग्रह कृष्ण ए चारी सने जीवन्यास करिले श्री मूर्ति पूजा है जन्म मात्र ए चारी ईश्वर वेदे कय. This is Chaitanya Bhagavat 2.21.81. He says, the Supreme Lord is always associated with the four following things. Bhagavad Tulsi Gangaya Bhaktajane. The book Bhagavad, Tulsi, Ganga, and devotees. And Chaturdha Vigraha Krishna E Chari Sane. The deity form of the Lord becomes worshipable after it has been consecrated ritually and the Lord's presence has been evoked. But Janma Matra Eichari Ishware Vedekaya. Scripture says that these four things, however, are innately divine. So, the book Bhagavad, the person Bhagavad, Tulasi and Ganga, they are all considered to be manifestations of the Supreme Lord because of their intimate connection with Him. So, they are called as Krishna's Prakasha Vigraha. So, the deity form of the Lord, which is stone or metal, is not considered worshipable unless the pran pratishtha is performed. And the living entity who is conditioned in this world with his external senses, he cannot worship the Supreme Lord, as we discussed earlier. But these four Prakash Vigrahas, they can be naturally worshipped by the external senses. And there is no need of any kind of ritual like Prana Pratishtha to elevate them to the status of being worshipped. So they are all spiritual, and due to their natural connection to the Lord, they are considered to be in relationship to us as masters or something which is worshipable. So they are always to be considered distinct from material nature. So we see Tulsi, Ganga in material nature, but they are to be considered distinct from material nature, and uh, they are not to be looked upon as objects of sense enjoyment. So then we can discuss more on Tadiya and Vaishnavas, but now there is we are running out of time. In Chaitanya Charitamrita also, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains what is Tadiya. So the 5 limbs of devotional service: Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan, Bhagavad Shravan, Mathuravas, and Shri Murtir Seva, deity worship. They are considered to be the best of all the forms of sadhana, because a slight engagement awakens love for Krishna. So a very close relationship between these 5 most potent devotional activities, or because they are tadiya, or things, they are related to the Lord. That's why it awakens devotional service. So we'll just end with one verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is Chaitanya Charitamrita 2.22.83. So Mahaprabhu taught Sanatan Goswami, association with devotees is important at all stages of one's devotional life. Whether one has become a pure devotee, even then he needs association of devotees. So Mahaprabhu is telling here, Krishna Bhakti Janma Mula Haya Sadhu Sangha, Krishna Preme Janmete Ho Punah Mukhya Anga. The root cause of devotional service to Krishna is association with advanced devotees. Uh, so very important. Please, we should all know this verse. Chaitanya Charitamrita 2.22.83. The root cause of devotional service to Krishna is association with advanced devotees. Unless one gets association of advanced devotees, how he will become advanced? It's not possible. Prabhupada here clearly says the root cause of devotional service to Krishna is association with advanced devotees. And when one's love for Krishna awakens, the association with devotees becomes the chief element in one's devotional service. So we see that uh, Sanatan Goswami is pure devotee, he is associate of the Lord, but even then he roams around Braj Mandal and he takes association of the Brajvasis. And some of them, they are not so mature like him. They are just speaking about their family matters, but still he takes association of them. He asks them that what's happening in their family, what is the problem, and did their daughter get married. So of course that is Sanatan Goswami. We should not do all that, but we should always search for the association of advanced devotees, and of course, uh, whichever devotees are around us, we should take their association also. Not that only advanced devotees and others are useless. So that is also not correct. So we saw in this verse that how hearing, chanting, and service, hearing, chanting about devotees and service to them is more powerful. It is equal to the Supreme Lord service, or even more powerful. And by doing this, one can achieve Vaikuntha. So one can go back home, back to Godhead. So it's a very potent process of hearing about the lives of the great Vaishnavas like Prithu Maharaj. Okay, so it's 9 o'clock and we'll end the discussion here. So if you have some questions, you can ask.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Dandavat Hare Krishna. So, Prabhu, in fact, you very beautifully summarized to say how we can quickly progress in devotional service. So hearing, chanting, also serving is very important. But one point I really, for me today was more of a revelation is hearing about devotees and everything connected to Krishna, which is what you explained as Dalia, is more important than actually hearing about Krishna, and how we have to go for the association of not only advanced devotees, but even serving the devotees around, which is very important. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you for this. I just unmuted the line, so I would just request devotees to ask their questions or share their comments or reflections. That's.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thanks for the wonderful class. You mentioned about different kind of people. Where do we find that classification, Prabhu? Which slok is the reference for that, Prabhu? The devotees are very rare. You classified different human species of life.
Different what?
Prabhu, you classified like there are very few devotees. Those who are moving, non-moving, then you classified them, the Vedic followers, not Vedic followers, the devotees. So where do we get that? Where is the reference for that?
That I told, I think it is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining to Rupa Goswami. Let me just find out. Meanwhile, if there is some other question you can ask, let me find out where it is.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam Prabhu. Thank you for a very nice class. I have one question, Prabhuji. You mentioned about the importance of associating with advanced devotees. Prabhuji, I have a very basic question here. Is it discriminating somebody as advanced or not advanced? Is it not kind of a mental offense, Prabhuji? Because as a practicing sadhaka, if I discriminate like, okay, this person is advanced than me and he's not advanced than me.
Yeah.
How to actually understand this?
Just 1 minute. I am trying to find that verse.
Okay, Prabhu.
So this is Mahaprabhu's instructions to Rupa Goswami in Prayag, and the exact verse I'll let you know.
Yes, no problem.
I can't find it. I mean, it will take some time for me to find out.
Yeah, I'll check. It's Rupa Goswami's instruction. I'll check.
Mahaprabhu is instructing Rupa Goswami in Prayagraj.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Yes. So it is in the conversation between Mahaprabhu and Rupa Goswami, where Mahaprabhu is telling how rare of your devotees. So, yeah. So you can find it there.
Yes, Prabhu. Sure. Thank you very much.
So the question was whether we should discriminate between devotees or not. So discrimination must be there because there are 3 levels of devotees, and you cannot behave with all types of devotees in the same way. Otherwise, that will also lead to some offense. So Madhyam Adhikari is a person who understands who is a neophyte, who is equal to him, and who is superior, and he acts with them in a similar way. So Krishna has given us intelligence. He has given us scriptures. The scriptures mention about the 3 types of devotees and how one should properly reciprocate with them. So if we have been given intelligence and we have been given this information that there are various levels of devotees and what are their characteristics and how they should be uh, reciprocated. So then we should use our discrimination and we should act accordingly. Otherwise, why the instruction is there in the scripture if there should be no discrimination? So when someone becomes a Uttama Adhikari, then he does not discriminate. He thinks that everybody is superior to him, and that's why he does not discriminate. But we cannot artificially imitate that platform of Uttama Adhikari. So there are three levels of devotees. So in Chaitanya Lila, we see that there was um Ramananda Basu. There was one Ramananda Basu, and his father was Satyaraj Khan, and both of them were very exemplary householders from the village of Kulinagram, where many of Mahaprabhu's followers also stayed. So once this Ramananda Basu and Satyaraj Khan, they came to visit Mahaprabhu in Puri, and they asked Mahaprabhu about the duties of a householder. And so Mahaprabhu answered all their queries in detail. And he advised that all the householders, they have three principal duties. First is serving Krishna's deity, serving the deity form of Krishna. Second is chanting the holy names. And third is serving the Vaishnavas. So when Satyaraj Khan he heard these three instructions coming directly from Mahaprabhu, first is serving deity, chanting holy names, and serving Vaishnavas. So Satyaraj Khan he began to think that service to deity and chanting the holy names are very straightforward, and one can easily execute them according to spiritual master's instruction. But if one is unable to recognize a Vaishnava, however, the instruction to serve them will not be easily carried out, just like you have the confusion. So Satyaraj Khan also had the same confusion. If one is unable to recognize a Vaishnava, then how I'll follow or carry out the instruction of Mahaprabhu? So he thus asked the Lord that how to recognize a Vaishnava. Who is a real Vaishnava? What are his characteristics? So over the next 3 years, Mahaprabhu answered this question by uh, describing the lower category of Vaishnava, the Kanishta, then the Madhyama, and finally the highest class of devotee, the Uttamadhikari. So in 3 different years, he gave these 3 different instructions, and he explained that who is a Kanishta, who is a Madhyama, and who's Uttama. So who is a Kanishta Adhikari? Mahaprabhu says that Krishna Nam Sai Pujya Shrestha Sabakar. So if I hear Prabhu Jare Mukhe Suni Eka Bar Krishna Nam. So if I hear someone chant Krishna's holy name just once, I consider him to be worshipable and best of all human beings. So the point here is that someone who is just chanted Krishna's names once, he is a neophyte. But what Mahaprabhu is saying that he considers him to be worshipable and best of all human beings. So even a neophyte should be considered as the best of all human beings and worshipable. What to speak of others? So it doesn't matter if someone is neophyte or uh, medium devotee or whatever. He is to be considered best of all human beings. So Mahaprabhu said that a single repetition of Krishna's holy name, it destroys all the consequences of sinful life. And all the 9 processes of devotional service are completed simply by chanting the holy name. And with the holy name, one does not have to undergo the initiation into other mantras. That is what Mahaprabhu said. And the name delivers even a person in the lowest rungs of human society, like outcast people, those who don't follow the Vedas. We see Prabhupada made so many Mlechas and Yavanas into Vaishnavas. So secondarily, the holy name also dissolves one's entanglement in material activities. So there are three levels of devotees, and so Mahaprabhu himself has stated these three different levels. And also it is stated in 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. In detail, it is there, the three levels of Vaishnavas. And also it is stated in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. So that discrimination should be there. Is that okay? But everybody should be dealt with respectfully only, irrespective of whoever they are. But still, there is some distinction. You cannot deal with a neophyte just like you deal with a advanced Vaishnava. That is the problem with modern education. People do not know how to deal with others, how to speak with others. They will speak with their juniors, equals, seniors in the same way. They will speak in the same way with people of same gender, whether it's man, woman, girl, whatever. So they do not have the proper understanding of how to deal. But these instructions are given properly in the scriptures. How to properly speak to a person, how to deal with. So that is the sign of a civilized human being. If you speak with everybody in the same way, that is not a civilized human being.
Thank
So,
you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
yes, Gauri Mataji. What is the question?
Krishna Prabhu. No, I don't have any questions, but I have lots of reflections. I thought I could make notes of your class, so I was trying to make notes, but so many important topics were coming out. I couldn't match the speed to make notes, Prabhu. It started from the first point where I attend Balaji Prabhu's classes in the evening on Saturdays. I have not taken any initiation or anything, but he's been so humble and so passionate with us. And he was always asking us to take the steps up in our devotional service, which I was ignoring. But the first statement which you made, Krishna is equivalent to spiritual master is equivalent to the Krishna, and Vaishnavas are also equivalent. They're all worshipable. That is, A is equal to B is equal to C. That statement exactly, it struck me so much. Hey God, what I'm doing? I have such a great devotee who's trying to help me, and I'm just not listening to him. And then I took this decision at least to commit on 4 rounds of chanting, which was very tough, which I would have not done it. But today's that first statement made me realize the importance. That was a first reflection. And the second reflection, where you said the external senses and smaranam. I was being told about this in the class always. We used to speak about it, but it is Balaji Prabhu's mercy. It struck me that like if we see a TV serial or a movie, and then we just stop it. After that, it keeps coming back into our mind as a smaranam. We keep seeing those, imagining those, everything what has happened. If something can like that happen with a TV serial or movie, but chanting, how much smaranam it can give us. It's a like amazing reflection I have, Prabhu. And then I have many more reflections. I thank you by my heart for this session, and I thank Prabhu, Balaji Prabhu, for giving us the link to attend the session. He was compelling us. I've never attended regularly, but going forward, I will attend this session. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Any other reflections or questions? Because we already passed time. I just want to add one thing, that tomorrow we'll be having our Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya class starting at 8:30, live from temple. Prabhu, I think there's actually no further comments or questions. Thank you for your association today. Thank you for the wonderful, very deep, very insightful thing about how we see these three aspects of, both Guru, Krishna, and Vaishnavas, how we see even the Lord's, everything connected to Lord is equally, and it's not even more important than the Lord himself. So thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you for the association. Yeah. We'll just end with the Vaishnava Pranam. Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripasindhubhyaeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavas Anantakoti Vaishnavanta ki jai. Gathashimad Bhagavata ki jai. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you. I'll just end the session now, Prabhu. Give permission.
Yes.
Nonetheless.